Good evening, Americans, and welcome to the Ed Show tonight from New York. Breaking news from Sanford, Florida. According to our NBC affiliate in Orlando, the Sanford, Florida City Commission has passed a no-confidence motion in Sanford Police Chief Bill Lee. It's the latest news in the Trayvon Martin tragedy that is gripping America. The country is hungry for justice, and Washington is paying attention. This is the Ed Show. Let's get to work.
The crime was committed. My son is murdered. My son is not with us no more. Nothing can bring him back.
The Trayvon Martin killing could be the Emmett Till moment of our time, and justice is still not done.
I just want this guy arrested, and so he can be brought to justice.
We're going to Orlando for the latest. Florida lawmakers are running away from the Stand Your Ground law. The man who signed the law in 2005 today endorsed Mitt Romney.
It's common sense to allow people to defend themselves.
A top Romney advisor shakes up the Republican race.
I think you hit a reset button for the fall campaign. It's almost like an Etch-a-Sketch. You can kind of shake it up and we start all over again.
Richard Wolff on Mitt Romney's Etch-a-Sketch implosion.
Gene Sperling said yesterday that your budget reform to Medicare is a death spiral.
Even religious leaders are calling Paul Ryan's plan an immoral disaster. We'll compare it to President Obama's vision for America. And Republicans are standing in the way of lower gas prices. Tonight, Bernie Sanders is doing something about it. Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. Trayvon Martin is quickly turning into the civil rights figure of our time because he was gunned down while doing the simplest of acts, just walking home from a 7-Eleven store and talking to his girlfriend on a cell phone. The wheels of justice are starting to turn in this case, but one vital piece is still missing: the arrest of the shooter, George Zimmerman. Today in New York City, the Million Hoodie March took place demanding justice for a teenager who was doing nothing more than wearing a hoodie in the rain as he walked back into a gated community in Sanford, Florida. Trayvon Martin's parents were at today's rally and are at the center of a growing wave of protest across the nation. They have exhibited a stunning degree of calm, but they want justice to begin with an arrest.
I would urge people to be patient, let the courts decide, but I strongly feel that he needs to be arrested.
They decided on the scene to be the judge and jury, and I just want this guy arrested, and so he can be brought to justice.
Mr. Martin was asked if he thought George Zimmerman uttered a racial slur on the 911 tape.
I think he said words that were not comforting to my ear.
Like these people.
And who are these people?
He was suspicious because he was young, black, with a hoodie.
The Ed Show's Ariana Jones was at a rally today. Here are some of the protesters and their reactions.
Prosecute George Zimmerman. Yeah! We're here to stand in solidarity.
Folks who have never met each other, folks from all around the country and all around the world are standing up and saying that we want democracy to work for us, that we will not allow the criminal justice system to ignore us.
If the races were reversed, you'd either have an in-jail black man or a dead one. One or the other. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere.
Other developments have been rapidly unfolding today. Activists gathered outside the regional office of Florida's Division of Licensing to demand the suspension of George Zimmerman's gun permit. But under state law, a permit is not suspended until the gun owner is charged with a felony. Florida Governor Rick Scott is being called upon to appoint a special prosecutor to oversee the investigation. State Senator Gary Spillane and other lawmakers said a special prosecutor was necessary to remove the perception of bias by Sanford authorities. There was a capacity crowd at a town hall meeting last night in Orlando. Local NAACP President Turner Clayton said the Sanford city manager and mayor were unable to attend because they have been summoned to Washington by Attorney General Eric Holder. There are calls for a review of Florida's so-called Stand Your Ground law. There are also calls for the Sanford police chief to resign, and tonight's city commission gave him a vote of no confidence of a vote of 3-2. Sanford officials have said the decision not to arrest George Zimmerman was made by the responding officer who released the shooter after he claimed he acted in self-defense. George Zimmerman's neighbor says the media is convicting him prematurely.
George is a congenial, amiable, admirable person. He had a passion and a care for this neighborhood to ensure the safety of everybody here. And furthermore, George is no Rambo. He was a caring person.
This is why the 911 tapes are so important. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question: does George Zimmerman need to be arrested so justice can be served? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. You can always go to our blog and leave a comment at ed.msnbc.com. Results of the poll later on in the program. I am joined tonight by Natalie Jackson, an attorney for the Trayvon Martin's family. Ms. Jackson, thank you for your time tonight. I want you to respond to the latest news that we've heard that the Sanford City Commission voted 3-2 tonight as a vote of no confidence for Police Chief Bill Lee. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that they are seeing what the public is seeing. They're seeing a lot of mistakes made. And really, you don't punish people for making mistakes, but you do punish people for adamantly and stubbornly standing by their mistakes, even to the detriment of a family who lost a 17-year-old child.
It's now 24 days after the killing of this 17-year-old boy. Why have there been no arrests? And have you had any conversation with the Sanford Police Department in their investigation?
We've had no conversation with the Sanford Police Department. We have had some conversations with the State Attorney's Office, who now has the case. At this point, the Sanford Police Chief, he doesn't have the case anymore. He passed the buck to the State Attorney's Office. The State Attorney's Office has now said that they will convene a grand jury. They are convening the grand jury on April 10th. I don't believe there will be an arrest until April 10th.
You think
if an indictment comes down.
You think there should be resignations within the department at Sanford?
I definitely do. I think that the City Commission did the right thing by voting no confidence, because clearly this investigation has turned into a circus, and clearly the way that it's being handled is biased and prejudiced. You have a victim, a 17-year-old victim, whose parents have to go out and prove that their son is innocent.
Trayvon Martin's mother just spoke at a rally here in New York tonight. Here's what she had to say.
But it's the support that we need. We need this kind of support.
Yes, you got it, sis.
Our son was not committing any crime.
No.
Our son is your son.
Yeah.
I want you guys to stand up for justice and stand up for what's right.
Yes.
This is not about a black and white thing.
No.
This is about a right and wrong thing.
Characterize, if you could, for us, Natalie, just the determination of Trayvon's parents in managing all of this with all the stress.
These parents are exhausted. They've done nonstop media. They haven't even had a chance to grieve for their son. But for them, this is the important thing, because the people have spoken. The only way that they will get justice is through the people, through the social networking movement, and also through the media. It's only by the pressure of the people and the public has this case gotten any attention. It would have died like countless other cases.
Another lawyer for the family, the Martin family, Benjamin Crump, had this to say. Here it is.
Why didn't the Sanford Police Department do a drug and alcohol analysis on him? They did one on Trayvon Martin, who was dead on the ground. Why didn't they do it on George Zimmerman? You ask yourself, why didn't they take a background check on the man who had just killed this kid in cold blood? They did a background check on Trayvon Martin.
I want your response to that.
Yeah, we talked about that. Our team has had to find out everything. The Sanford Police Department has not released anything to our team except the 911 tapes. And that was after a week of constant media pressure that they released those. All the information that we have found, such as George Zimmerman's arrest history, the Sanford Police Chiefs, the Sanford Police Department said he was squeaky clean. That's what they told the parents, that he was squeaky clean. At a news conference, it was asked, where did you get that information from? They got it from George Zimmerman. They've been taking George Zimmerman's word at everything. The young lady who was on the phone with Trayvon Martin 1 minute before his death, the phone hung up 1 minute before his death. This is information that we had to go get, that the family has gotten. The family has acted as the investigators in this case. This is a relentless family. They are not giving up. If anyone thinks that they're going to stop, they will not.
Well, I want to ask you, you said something very interesting there about how your team has had to do all the work, and they have taken the word of George Zimmerman. Have you been able to establish any kind of friendship or relationship that you've seen between Zimmerman and the local police department where they might be giving him cover?
No, we haven't. I mean, you know, everything would be speculation at this time. But what we have seen time and time again is the police department, the Sanford Police Department, release information that they consider, which is not, they consider favorable to George, without releasing any other information. If you're gonna say this is an investigation, make it a real investigation, and that's the reason they're saying we can't obtain any information, because there's an investigation.
Natalie Jackson, I appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much. Later on in this broadcast, we're going to hear from longtime attorney Mike Papantonio, who works in Florida, and he will give us clarification on the Stand Your Ground law, which is at the center of all of this. One of the things that is very interesting is that who was pushing the Stand Your Ground law, and what are they saying right now? And also, Governor Jeb Bush was very much in favor of it, and there was a tremendous amount of lobbying that was taking place by the National Rifle Association, who, by the way, has been very quiet throughout all of this. Now let's turn to Trumaine Lee, senior reporter with the Huffington Post, who has been closely following this case. Is Mr. Lee with us tonight? Okay. Trumaine, good to have you with us tonight. What are the latest developments from Florida? What can you tell us?
Well, first of all, it's what kind of began as a kind of an angry whisper is now a roar. The city council in Sanford voted the 3-2 of no confidence in Police Chief Bill Lee. And you see around the country, people are mobilizing. You have the Million Hoodies March in New York City. In Detroit, there are actions. And now it seems the community is galvanizing in a way. And I've been around the block, and I've never seen anything like this. Not with Sean Bell, not with Oscar Grant. It's just this crazy groundswell.
Would you say that this is a sea change when it comes to dealing with race relations and crime in this country, that this is an event that has unfolded, and Twitter and social media and protests have brought this to a level of awareness that we've never seen before?
Oh, this is clearly a watershed moment, because for some reason this story resonates with black, white, male, female. It could be your son, it could be me, and we've never seen that. I think this is the kind of the perfect confluence. Trayvon Martin, by all accounts, was an all-American boy, and to be gunned down, I think it kind of hits home. And I've never seen anything like this before. You say Twitter. I've been on it from day one, from the beginning, and as you know, the Huffington Post is all online. Thousands of shares on Facebook, thousands and thousands of comments. It's just amazing how social media has gotten this story out, where in the past this might have been brushed under the rug and we would have just never known the name Trayvon Martin.
You deserve a tremendous amount of credit, Mr. Lee, because you were one of the first reporters that was on this that would bring this to the level of where it is right now. And we've heard some stunning 911 tapes showing how George Zimmerman pursued the 17-year-old boy, and after being told not to, even prior to the grand jury investigation, why can't Zimmerman be arrested based on that alone? What are authorities telling you in your reporting?
Well, first of all, there seems to be enough wiggle room in this law where it's not clear, because as the law states, you can stand your ground regardless of the location. So I think that's what they're banking on. But a few of the co-authors of the original bill spoke to some of my colleagues this afternoon, and even they say that George Zimmerman should have been arrested, and because of the pursuit, because he was actually being the aggressor, that he kind of stepped out of, from under the umbrella of protection here. So as of right now, they seem, at least in terms of the law, the police chief, as he said, he doesn't see enough evidence to refute it, but we'll see.
And finally, would you agree that it has been the release of the 911 tapes that has really brought this to light at a different level?
I think until that point, people, at least in the media, we deal a lot of times in storylines and stereotypes, and we try to fit things in a box. So I think the broader media, we're trying to figure this out. But once the 911 tapes were released, and you hear the shocking sobs from the neighbors, and you hear those last minutes, and you hear Zimmerman's call, I think that kind of drove a few points home.
And from your reporting, your gut check, what do you think the next big development is? Will there be an arrest soon?
I think, it would be pure speculation, but I think that's probably the direction we're going in, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chief Lee is asked to step down.
Trumaine Lee, Huffington Post. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Remember to answer tonight's question there at the bottom of the screen. Share your thoughts on Twitter @edshow. We always want to know what you think. Next, the law that is allowing George Zimmerman to roam free got overwhelming support from both Republicans and Democrats in Florida in 2005. Mike Papantonio will sort it all out for us. And Bernie Sanders has a plan to bring down gas prices, but Republicans prefer to keep blaming President Obama. Stay tuned. You're watching The Ed Show.